This is
Chat the Great.
Yeah, and there's so much social media as well, and like it's really important for artists to look at that now as well. There's like a lot to think about on like making sure everything's up to date and there's enough on there, and so if someone does look at what you're doing, they can see exactly what you're doing all online. So it's like
yeah, it's really it's not only harder for labels, it's harder for artists too, because it used to be that labels really were able to at least drive some of the marketing success or failure on projects by, doing press and doing radio, attacking the media channels out there to try and create exposure. The problem is now that media channels are not where people are looking. People are not listening to the radio so much. People are not reading press so much. I mean, if you look at the say readership of say Enemy or Kerrang or something like that, it's plummeted over the last 20, 30 years, even over the last 10 years. And, all those magazines, print versions have gone out of business. They're basically websites. The eyeballs on those websites is much decreased. So it's a problem. And so that's why social media is really important. People are not getting turned on to music as much, or I would argue hardly at all, through radio and through the press. It's much more in a peer-to-peer sort of way, looking at their Instagram feed or Twitter or Facebook or YouTube for that matter, and getting turned on to stuff, or their friend sends them a link of a video from YouTube. It's very much peer-to-peer, and so it's kind of rendered the radio, terrestrial radio world and the press world somewhat less useful and less integral to this. And it's made the whole thing more tricky, I think.
I was just going to say, I was reading an article and it was saying like there's a lot of artificial intelligence that's getting involved with A&R now. So it's kind of like taking algorithms and it's like, a robot is kind of taking over someone's job. So it's just like the world is just moving so quickly.
Yeah, I don't think robots can ever replace like human creativity, but I think look at as like a search tool to find A&R prospects, AI is pretty cool because you can, feed your computer algorithm a series of attributes of an act and, quickly find some acts. It's much easier to find talent for us than ever before, because there's so much great stuff out there. And there's a lot of stuff that major labels used to be into that they're just not anymore. They're just, there's a lot of great people at major labels around the world, but they're not that, it's not in their business model to be interested in growing things from a small level. Their business model is basically picking up things that are already really screaming successes at the streamers and trying to ride off of those and make those bigger.
We're talking about about that thing like with socials that are really, really important these days. Do you still believe like the music? Is music still number one? And this kind of like, is the music the most important thing?
I mean, music is always is the most important thing and always will be the most important thing. I mean, it goes without saying that great music is for sure the most important element of all of this. Without great music, we have nothing. That being said, we all, great marketing and great hustle and great social media by artists and labels can definitely win sometimes, unfortunately. So you see there's a lot of music that you'll see that does well and you're like, oh, this is terrible. And it's usually because they have a great marketing plan together. And then you'll see a lot of music that you think is really wonderful that doesn't seem to connect as much. And usually that's because something's not clicking as far as either the artist's social media or the label's sort of marketing push into social media advertising and that sort of thing. So I will definitely say that music is the most important thing, but that other things are important as well.
Because like they're like loads of bands. They're like kind of like these days, and you much like I don't know, they're posting like 30 posts a day, 30 like stories and stuff like that. And as you know, because you told me like, Victor, do that, because we're working together, people, yeah. And we're not doing that much because we rely so much on music, and sometimes I think we're doing a mistake, but I still, in the same time, the music is going to beat that thing.
Yeah, well, it's tricky, and this is really challenging for artists, and I feel for artists in this predicament these days. But I don't feel that social media I don't feel like it has to be one or the other. I don't feel you have to sacrifice putting your music first or sacrifice having great music and putting social media first. I think you can have social media with great music. Take someone like, say, in an extreme example, like Billie Eilish, that was really, wasn't really pushed at the major label level, kind of was able to develop via socials and YouTube over the period of a few years. And it really like slowly snowballed until it became a huge thing. And that's one where she was really good at social media and her team. And it didn't sacrifice the quality of the music at all, I don't think, but it is tricky. It is definitely a conundrum to tackle for all artists today. It's really tough.